I participated in a poetry salon recently with three wonderful poets, Sidney Lee, Garrett Kaiser, and Mark Hart. It was on the theme of resurrection, hosted by the Reverend Dr. Michael Caldwell at the Newbury Congregational Church in Newbury, Vermont. And I was so glad to be able to participate in this, and particularly to think in advance about the theme of resurrection, not as a religious doctrine, but as a law of the universe. Resurrection is not. It's a sacred thing to me. But it's a secular, it's just part of life. Resurrection is what happens in the compost heap. It's what happens in every 12-step meeting. It's what happens to every person who goes through grief and comes out the other side, or any kind of dark night of the soul. The thing that religion brings to resurrection is, particularly in my tradition, in the Christian mystical tradition, is knowledge based on experience, thousands of years of how to work with that universal law, that power, how to bring it to work, bring it to bear in our own lives and in the world around us. And there are three words in the Christian tradition that are key. And as I read my poems, you'll see that they are part of it, not expressed explicitly, but the themes. And the first word is kenosis, which means self-emptying in the tradition. Second is metanoia. Metanoia is translated in the scriptures as repentance, but it's a really poor translation, because what it means is, literally, is metanoia. It means to move beyond where our mind or heart or spirit are now, and to expand our consciousness into a new place. It's what John the Baptist and Jesus came saying, undergo metanoia, undergo this transformation of consciousness, because the realm of God is here. And by expanding our consciousness, we enter into it. We see the sacredness, the divine, the power that created the universe all around us. So that's the metanoia. The third term is agape. And agape is love, and particularly the understanding in the mid-20th century on has been agape as particularly the love of God. That is, the love of God, the love that God has for the universe, for us. So through kenosis, through self-emptying, we open ourselves to this expansion of consciousness. In other words, we have to go through this kind of dying to our small self, our ego, our false self, to undergo a transformation into the metanoia, into an expanded consciousness. And the result of that is that we incarnate the love of God, the love that flows through the universe, that created the universe, the force of love and life and light that is in all things. So it's important to keep this in mind as you hear what the poems that I read, and it's very important today that we learn to work with this force of resurrection, because our world is falling apart, and in so many ways, and in order to bring new life to it, in order to resurrect human civilization, in order to resurrect the earth that we have wrecked, to bring healing, we need to work with this force. So I was really grateful to Michael Caldwell, who suggested this theme, and to have the opportunity to put this reading together. I chose 10 sonnets out of my several hundred sonnets that are going into my upcoming books, Sonnets for the Struggle series, and also Sonnets for Celebration and Love, another book. And so that's where I'm taking these poems from. And I'm going to begin with a poem that is to a poet activist, somebody who really dedicated her life to resurrecting the world over and over again from its follies and foibles and terrible tragedies. And I am just so grateful for her, and I'm so grateful for Garrett Kaiser and for Sidney Lee, for Mark Hart, for the work that they do that we heard at this poetry reading. And I will include links to their poetry below here because they're well worth reading. So this poem is dedicated to Grace Paley, who who hated sonnets on principle, but who was really great-hearted enough to be kind to me nonetheless. And she lives on as a source of hope and comfort and inspiration beyond her death for all that she overcame and for the resurrection that you'll see in this poem. It's entitled Grace and Greatness at a Vigil at the Village Church. Hostage to cancer, gray, hunched, shrunk with age, the woman pulls herself up from her pew and shuffles down the aisle to reach the stage. The church is only candlelit. The few people sit scattered. On the altar table stand candles, prayers for peace, a scant half-rack. She takes one from the basket, leans unstable, lights it, and places it, nods, shuffles back. The nod is toward a rainbow flag of peace, like those on stages past where she has spoken for decades, fighting wars that never cease. She nods to say her word has not been broken. Her cancer has not stopped her, nor will fear. However feeble, grace is greatly here. The next poem reflects on the gospel story of Lazarus, who died young. Lazarus was the brother of Mary and Martha, a friend of Jesus, and it's really about the kenosis that leads to metanoia, and how we have to let go of our ego's control in order for that magic of resurrection to happen. It's entitled, All You Have to Do. Lazarus had no easy task to do. He had to grieve, leave all he loved behind, watch as the gaping cave grave darkness grew, and short-lived light of Bethany declined. Goodbye to sisters' loving eyes, their hands, the loss of all but pain, and then that too. The ululations and the grave cloth bands, the last warm things his parting spirit knew. No question that this task is cold and hard, but in the story, not the hardest part. That fell to one who stood out in the yard and made new life pump through the deadened heart. So you who would rebirth yourself, reflect. Your job is just to die, not resurrect. So the higher power, there's a higher power that brings about resurrection. And it is that big bang force of love and life and light that created the earth and us. It's at work constantly within us, around us. Throughout the universe, it is always making something new out of what is in the process of dying. I don't think of that higher power as being up above us in heaven. I think of it as being in our every cell and all around us. But in this next poem, it is literally higher. The title is from a hymn that was the favorite of the beloved parishioner of mine, whose story this is. I rest my weary soul in thee. And it comes from a hymn that says, O love that will not let me go, O love that will not let me go, I rest my weary soul in thee. The groom was old, his cancer near the end. He stood before the altar, bent, eyes glazed, a puppet children left and let suspend. But watch the bride approach and be amazed to see the animating strings take hold and lift his head and bare his worn-out teeth. A smile as full of youth as full of gold. Two hands move. Love's above guides his beneath. He takes her hand in his to place the ring. Her fingers soft. His bone-thin sticks of sickness. His fumble shake. Her knuckle wrinkles cling. The puppeteer gives patience, if not quickness. Its hand beats time above. We keep below. We sing, O love, that wilt not let me go. You know, if you're going to talk about resurrection, you're going to talk a lot about death, because it is a natural part of the cycle. And in a way, our life is resurrected and lives in what we pass on to others. My parents are both gone, but they gave me a love of being out in the woods and fields, fully appreciating the life of the earth and the presence of the Spirit in it. I give new life every day on my poem walks to the love that my parents gave me. And it's a love that they felt, and probably their parents before them that they received it from. And I often feel them with me, living through me on my poem walks. And I wrote this poem as my father was dying. To an old man, far from the woods he loved. The wet spot, spiky grass. The touch-me-not with saffron blossoms, detonating pods. Your mind recalls these joys that it forgot. The spicy scents of marshy summer sods, or high, dry, late fall, deep-leafed forest floor. The quiet of a ridgetop, sun-warmed rock. All places out of reach beyond the door of this long, sterile hall. You cannot walk. I walk now for you, speaking flower names, daisy and heel-all, aster, sweet red clover. I watch the chipmunks play their chasing games. I listen till the whole wren song is over. Old man, imprisoned, chained to life machines. You show this path. You teach me what it means. We live in those we love, even while we're alive, when that love is mystical, when it involves our self-emptying, our kenosis, and it involves expanding our hearts and minds, our metanoia, to be one, beyond our small individual boundaried self, to be one with someone in agape love. And that love between people gives off a light. And that light is the light of resurrection. life transformed and transcendent. There's a word in this next poem that I don't want you to get wrong. It's Edenistic. Edenistic as in the Garden of Eden, not hedonistic, as you might think. The flesh made word. Come, hold me close, and let us both be still, while all the world around us falls apart. Come, kneel beside the spring we share, and fill with peace and joy the cup that is our heart. Come, let us form one small and holy thing, a balanced wholeness, sheltered, warm, and tight. A home where, while it storms outside, we sing and cook and touch. We meditate and write. Come, let our broken places heal, and then go, two made one, to take all we have found within this blessed Edenistic den, and let earth hear again, through us, the sound, the voice of love's creative cosmic word, reversing death wherever it is heard. Love is the path to resurrection, but it's not always straightforward. The sacred way of self-emptying and resurrecting is an ideal that humans are wise to seek, but not even the greatest saints walk it without stumbling or straying. William Blake wrote in his mystical poem, Jerusalem, I give you the end of a golden string. Only wind it into a ball. It will lead you in at heaven's gate, built in Jerusalem's wall. We may get all tangled up in life, but we can trace the path through complexity to resurrection by following that golden string of love. The next poem is entitled Fullness of Joy, Fullness of Sorrow. The new teen mother brings her baby round to meet 3 generations that have seen so many children buried in the ground of forced adulthood. Pregnant, fathers mean or careless or confused, who act the boys they truly are and leave the girls to cope. Now here comes this one, fresh from childish joys, thrust down this binding grave of short-lived hope. The women know. They know the coming pain and what her baby boy may grow to do. But look at how they still cannot refrain from women's joy to hold hope pure and new. They bend their faces near. They coo and kiss. They cry. Both sad and glad, life comes to this. Sometimes circumstances demand that we sacrifice the life we want. But I believe that we're all called in all circumstances to find some way to serve the force of love and light that's continually resurrecting the universe. So we may get lost in darkness or in chaos, but that force is always there. That law of the universe, that resurrection. And it will guide us if we self-empty and we open to it from anywhere. So the next poem sees this happening in a building project. Making good. When we began, it looked like pickup sticks. the 6x6s strewn across bare ground inside the half-sheathed sugar house, as mixed and useless, crazed and crossed and kicked around as your poor gut and head and heart were then. Another marriage blown apart. Love failed, dumping your lumber into ruin again, leaving you nothing solid, nothing nailed. We spent an afternoon inside that shell. At first we made more mess, but as we placed and leveled beams and joists, we made of hell an ordered floor, where you stood, braced and graced, supported and surrounded by this wood that time and friends and you transformed, made good. John Milton ended his famous sonnet on his blindness. They also serve who only stand and wait. We can do things to help bring about our resurrection, but waiting for change will almost always be part of the process. It's important to remember that the discomfort or struggle of waiting in our self-emptying, waiting for that metanoia and agape to come, that can be part of the birthing of new life and light. And the next poem is about resurrection from depression. The firebox. Depression is a firebox full of logs, soggy from sitting under snow too long, cut from those gnarled, soft hardwoods found in bogs, half tree, half sponge, whose heat is never strong, and these have sat in puddles since they thawed. Thick fog out, gray and raw. You have a cold. You try tea, happy thoughts. You pray to God. You try dry kindling. Flames will not take hold. Then after hours or days or weeks or years, you see a wispy brightness through the dark, a hope that finds a crack between dense fears and rises from some given up on spark. What joy, however flickering, to feel you might ignite again. You might heal. A neighbor of mine had just been diagnosed with terminal, untreatable cancer. Death again. She lived in a dilapidated farmhouse that was full of mice and other creatures. And I went to knock on her kitchen door for a visit. And I looked down to see a snakeskin lying across the threshold of her back door with its head pointing toward her garden. No sign of the snake that left it. And it led to this poem's vision of resurrection. Not long till. Not long now till we all will shed our skin. The way that snake slid out the back porch door and left what it had been half out, half in, and went off with its shiny, new-skinned core. If you go first, you will not wait too long till we come join you in the garden grass, in Eden, as it was before the wrong of snake and naked human came to pass. However long we live, it will be brief compared to what waits on the other side. And though skin parting pains with tearing grief, death's threshold frees each soul so it may glide into and all around our love's shared place, till we all join and cross that porch to grace. So this will be my last poem. Human civilization has a potentially terminal diagnosis because of what we have done to the earth. And the only hope we have is in this higher power of resurrection working through us. Other generations have lived through terrible times, obviously, but our generation faces the greatest challenge in human history. No one else is going to come along. No one else is going to solve Earth's problems. It is up to us, which is to say it's up to us each to do our part to serve that force of love and life and light that wants to save Earth's living species that it created and wants to preserve the conditions that they need to survive. Love is the path. Love teaches us each what we need to do, and it will be different for each of us. And love shows us how to change society's laws and policies to follow the golden rule and compassion for those who are vulnerable and suffering. Love leads us to kenosis, to self-emptying. It leads us to let go of our old ways that we need to drop, that we need to turn from in order to create a new civilization on Earth that can live sustainably and justly as one. So this last sonnet is for the struggle ahead that we each must undergo for humanity to survive. And I'll say now, just thank you. Thank you for your love and for what you love and for doing your part in the struggle. The end of ends. The broken beech branch leaves are turning black. The oak is hollowed by an ant attack. A change has come. No chance of turning back. The last spring beauties draw a deeper look. We listen harder for the drying brook. We savor words that end a favorite book. But then come other words. There is no end. The river still will flow beyond this bend. Parched valleys drink the rains the mountains send. Time comes when we release our loss and grief. At last the beach lets go the long dead leaf. Let love, however compromised or brief, renew deep springs and overflow the heart, so grieving earth may drink and greening start.